going to look at a word problem where we're investing with commission. So we're going to be investing in the stock market, and in our scenario we're going to have a stockbroker who's going to need paid. You may think, well, I'd rather do an E-Trade, but typically with E-Trading you do have to pay commission as well. You're just paying for someone to run the website, and you're making the decisions about when to trade and when not to trade. So let's look at our scenario. This particular investor is going to purchase 200 shares. We see the purchase price. They have the stock for 39 weeks, and then they sell, and we see the selling price. We also see that we have a table here showing us that depending on the amount invested, it has different ways to calculate the commission. Our question is, what is the annual rate of interest earned? So first we need to understand this scenario completely. So first we have stockbroker. And as I said before, this could be E-Trade or this could be a physical person, but this person or this website is needing paid for our activity. So we want to buy stock, and you see two arrows coming out of this box because there's two things that are involved. One is money that's invested, and the other is money that goes to commission. So we invest our money for 39 weeks in the stock market in this problem, and then we want to sell the stock. And again, we see two arrows because some of our money is going to go to pay commission, and the other money is actually the money in our pocket. So our big question is, was it worth it? When we have to pay commission both to be able to buy the stock and then again to sell the stock, we are losing out on some of the return. And so we really need to look at the interest rate so that we could compare that interest rate to other investments and determine, was it better than, say, just keeping the money in a savings account in the bank? What was our return on that investment? So of course that involves a little bit of math, and so wiped my slate clean here. Let's take a look at the math. The first piece of our puzzle was to buy the stock, and so involved in buying the stock we have the purchase price, $14.20 times the 200 shares, and that's $2,840. We know that we have to pay commission. Our total investment here is under $3,000, so we're using the first row of the chart. So we have $25, 1.8% rewritten as a decimal, times our principal. That comes out to $76.12. The combination of those two is our total investment. So I add the stock price plus the commission price, and this is going to cost me all but $3,000. Now, we know from the problem that we sell the shares after 39 weeks. So let's look at all the money involved in selling the stock. So there's the stock. $15.75 a share times 200 shares means that we're getting back from the market $3,150. And so it looks like we made a significant amount, but you have to remember the commission. And so we have to calculate the commission. This time we're above the $3,000, so we're using the middle line of the chart above. And again, so I start with my $37 plus, change my rate to a decimal, and multiply by the principal, so $81.10. Now, to figure out my final return, I have to take the amount that I got from selling the stock and subtract out the commission because I don't get to keep that. And so my final return just over $3,000. So we're really looking at the last line in both of these columns, the total investment and then the total return. Thankfully, we still made some money, but not as much as if we looked at just the stock, because in both the buying and the selling, commission is involved. So we're ready to look at the question that was asked, and that is, what is the rate? And so we have our formula, and this is a simple interest formula because our total investment was under 1 year, and so we don't have to worry about the more complicated compound interest. So what I'm going to do is use my pen and to fill in numbers to this formula. So let me get my pen here. And the amount, so that's the final amount, and in this case that is the $3,068.90 that we got after we sold our stock and paid the commission. And then we're looking for the principal. This is the total investment, so in this case the $2,916.12. And my ones aren't coming through. Let me go back and write those. And then we have to add in the interest, so plus Principal $2,916.12. The rate, which we don't know, so we're just using R for that. And then the time, since it's less than a year, we're going to have to use a fraction. So we invested for 39 out of the 52 weeks. Now I want to solve this equation for R. So the first thing I'm going to do is to subtract this amount, and I want to do that on both sides. So minus $2,916.12, and same thing over here, minus $2,916.12. And when I do that, on this side of the equation I get $152, and I'm just using my calculator, so you're welcome to follow along with your calculator. 78 cents. On this side, these two were 0, so I don't have that anymore. So I have the $2,916.12. To go back and write my ones here. The rate, which I don't know, and the 39 over 52. Now, I can simplify this piece by piece, but I'm going to at least try on my calculator and see if any of this are decent numbers to work with. So I'm going to punch into my calculator 39 divided by 52, and the wonderful thing is that that is just a nice decimal. It's not repeating, so 0.75. So I've invested for 3/4 of a year. And then I'm going to take this 0.75 times this 2,916.12, so that I just combine these two numbers, their multiplication. And so when I do that, let me use an arrow going over here. So I have on my left $152.78, and that is equal to, from my calculator, $2,187.09. And I still have my R. So I just cleaned up here a little bit, made this into a decimal, multiplied that decimal times this number so that I have this new equation, and that is a 7. It looks like a pi, but it's a 7. And so now I just have one more step to solve this, so I'm going to divide by this amount on both sides. So divide by 2,187.09. On both sides, 2,187.09. Over here, these guys cancel out, and so I have my rate equals, over here I'm getting a big long decimal in my calculator, so 0.069855, and it continues. So my textbook tells me that I'm supposed to round to 3 digits, so I'm going to change this from decimal to percent, move that, and then I want to keep 3 digits in the decimal after that. So my answer, 6.986 is my interest rate. So I did pretty good. We could put a percent there if we want to have a label on it. Definitely better than we would be doing if we just left this in a savings account, because savings accounts typically aren't paying almost 7% interest. So that's how we figure out the interest when we're dealing with an investment that involves both commission at the buying point and the selling point.